Good morning and welcome to the 5th edition of the live webinars we're running this week from Rotech. My name's Steve Ryan, I'm the sales manager for the company, and today I'll be concentrating on the food industry and legislation requirements that are appropriate to this sector. We have a number of systems we want to show you today. We'll be starting with a slider rig and then following on to an automated system known as the RF line. But first, I just want to go through a couple of scenarios that we face on a daily basis within this sector for date coding. Predominantly, a date code needs to be applied to the product, and this is a customer specific code. This can be applied at the time of printing the actual carton or sleeve. The downsides to doing this could be that there is an under calculation the amount of sleeves required and therefore product is wasted, or an over calculation on the sleeves printed and therefore the sleeves are wasted. So not an ideal situation that could be facing any supplier or manufacturer if they're pre-printing the sleeves ready for production. But also there is an additional cost in doing this to the supplier because short runs are often required. The second way, fairly common way of applying the date code, is to apply a pre-printed label with the date code relevant to that product. Again, labor intensive, and in some situations, especially if the label is a paper-based label, such as this type of product here, the paper label can become detached from the product and is subject to potential issues with the product becoming damp and the label all falling away from the finished sleeve. An additional problem with this type of coding is that there are a number of major retailers that do not accept a labeled product into their sites. The third way of doing this typically would be to code the product online. Now with a product such as this, there could be an issue with the detection of the leading edge of the product being inconsistent and therefore creating a code which does not always hit the date code box. Another option is that the sleeve is applied, or an issue, the sleeve is applied by an operator and it might not be central to the last product, and therefore if the online printer is being triggered by the leading edge of the sleeve, again the date code may miss entirely the area to which it's supposed to be applied. As an alternative, Rotech offer offline systems, and these are units that can be used to date code directly to the product, so you have a clear and concise code, and they are used for a multitude of different shapes and sizes, including products such as this, where additional marketing material is applied to the actual sleeve, and this can often create issues online due to the size and dimension of the product. The system I want to start showing you today is our entry-level slider rig. This unit is designed for small to medium use operation in manufacturing environments. The slider rig itself incorporates our proven technology within respect of a thermal inkjet printer. This is the Integra system, common across our range of systems. The slider plate itself, which is the table to which the product is applied to. And the operation is a simple slide movement to allow the product to pass underneath the printer. We have an encoder that reads the speed of the table, and therefore, depending on the operator, one may move faster than the other. This will always track the speed of the product and ensure that the code is printed correctly to the item. We use an external sensor, which is triggered by the top plate. And again here, through the electronics on the system, we can dictate the print position or location on the product itself. This is a generic table, and we can fit jigs or guides to provide the datum for the product. And the operation is very simple. The operator simply places the product against the datum edge, slides the product across, and the result is a very clear and concise print directly to the actual product that needs to be coded. One advantage of the slider rig is it can also accommodate formed and non-formed product, in the sense of a box that has already been created or formed around a product and filled. The system can be easily adjusted in terms of the height using the vertical rail here, and the position of the printer is easily adjusted to accommodate different areas across the box simply by using a slider handle. Expected throughput rates on this type of system really depends on operator dexterity. So some operators may be able to run the system at approximately 20 a minute, but the average is 25 to 30 units. Just going to quickly check the chat to see if anybody has any questions at this stage on this particular system before we move on to an automated process and a higher speed machine to accommodate higher throughputs. One other advantage of the slider rig is it doesn't have to be just used for overprinting cartons and sleeves. We can, of course, also print direct to various other products, such as poly bags and such like. Again, the operation is exactly the same. You simply place the product on, slide the product across, and we end up with a date code directly on the actual material. We're going to move now on to the RF Lite, which is the automated version of this system, again aimed primarily at the smaller artisan businesses and lower volume producers. This system is known as the RF Lite. It really is the entry-level unit that we manufacture here at Rotech, and is designed, as mentioned previously, for the smaller businesses and the lower volume production runs. Typically, this type of system would be used by customers that are anticipating 7,000 to 10,000 sleeves per day on a weekly basis. The system itself is very, very simple to operate. On the rear of the system, we have a stop and start button. We also have a reset button, main power on button, and a selectable switch here, which will alter between a low speed and a high speed setting. The system itself can accommodate a wide range of sizes. Lever here, and you adjust the outfeed hoppers to accommodate the size of product you wish to run. The set of rollers on the top of the machine here provide friction grip to the base surface of the product you're wishing to run. And the optimum way of running the system is to have this placed centrally on these rollers. There's a finger adjustment or a finger guide here on the system. This allows the pressure to be set on the sleeve to ensure a positive drive against the rollers and ensure only one sleeve is transferred from the stack through to the print position and then onto the outfeed conveyor. We have a question from Eric, which is with reference to the minimum and maximum carton sizes. The system will accommodate an 80 by 30 minimum up to a 380 by 250 maximum. Bearing in mind, when we look at the carton size and dimension, we ideally want to be printing our data in line of travel. So that's the line of the movement of the product through the machine. So we place the carton into position, we check our tension on the finger here, and then we simply slide our hopper plates up to meet the edges of that carton. Once we're happy with position, we can then continue to stack additional product on top of the initial carton, and if necessary, we do have a small ski ramp here which allows a slight angle to be placed on the carton, and so when we're running through the machine we want to tilt the leading edge of the carton so it tracks properly through the in-feed section. Turning the machine to the side, I can show you again, we have the Integra printer, which is the thermal inkjet system cartridge-based technology. It's zero maintenance and completely clean and free system of any service requirements. Positioning of the printer across the bed to match the code point that we want to hit, or the target area on the sleeve, is adjusted simply by releasing this handle and moving the printer to the desired location. Once the desired location is found, we simply lock the handle back up, and that will keep the printer in the right location for each cycle of carton. We have an outfeed weight here on a plate. When we move the machine round to the outfeed section, this is just simply a guide and designed to keep pressure on the product as it transits out from the infeed section onto the conveyor belts here. The product then reaches the point at the end of the machine, and we have a very simple to adjust hopper which collects the product, and we just move these guides in to ensure that the product is dropping in consistently and is easy to remove once printed. The belts themselves can be adjusted both inwards and outwards to suit the carton that you're running, or the sleeve that you're running. This is to provide support on the product and ensure the continued flow and drive of the product through the print area. There's no batch counter on this particular system, but we do have a counter on the printer. Once we reset the count and the format, the printer will count upwards. Another question from Aaron here, it's regarding the throughput per minute of the RF light. Based on a 100mm square product, you can expect to see 400 prints per minute out of this machine on the top speed setting. It is of course dependent on size of product, so anything above 100 by 100, the speed is likely to go down, the throughput go down on the system. So initially, to set the machine up, once we're happy with the position of carton and the position of printer, again we want to select the lower speed setting on the machine, which is simply done by this rocker switch, and we trigger the machine to run one product through, ideally stopping it in position so that we can see where the date code has been presented to the product. I'll just show you where we are now. If we wanted to adjust this position on the product, we can do this through the electronics or the control system on the printer, and we can adjust the delay from which point we receive a signal from the leading edge of the sleeve, which is from the built-in sensor on the printer, which is looking down through the slot on this top plate. For dark cartons or dark coloured cartons, sometimes the internal sensor will not pick up on this. So therefore we have an option of an external sensor, but the triggering and the sequence is exactly the same, whether you're using internal or external. Once you're happy with the system setup and the machine operation, if you press the start button, the machine will start feeding, and I'll show you the two different speed settings. If I just move round so that you can see the product coming out. On slow speed, the system is running through like so. But then we can adjust to high speed for a higher throughput, and you can see now from this point how we achieve the 400 per minute. And if we refer back to the printed sleeves, we take some of these out of the stack, across from the machine here. You can see that the print is consistent in terms of positioning and quality. Using thermal inkjet, you've got an ideal partner for this system in low cost running. I'm going to check the chat because I've been talking myself quite a lot through the presentation. This is to see whether we have any other questions. We have one referring to the portability of this system. The overall weight of the unit is around 28 kilograms. Now, we have the system here on a stand. It's mounted onto caster wheel frame assembly, so it's easily portable around the site. We just need a single phase 230 volt supply for this system. And if by choice you wish to have the unit mounted onto a tabletop, this is not a problem. You can fit the unit onto the tabletop and negate the use of the stand, and have the outfeed hopper overhanging the edge of the table. Any more questions on the system at this stage? One other point to note on the RF light is the long-term maintenance requirements. It's very, very little on this particular system. The key parts to accommodate maintenance for are the drive rollers. These should be kept clean, maybe once a week, wiped with an alcohol-based here. The printer itself, again, maintenance free. The only requirement here is to wipe the cartridge prior to and then cap the cartridge when not in use. No special tools are required for the system, as all the adjustment points from an operative point of view are quick release handle for positioning of printer and quick release locks for positioning of the hopper plates. Just checking chat, we've got a few different questions popping up here. Prints per cartridge relative to this particular system relates to the size of the image that you're printing using the thermal inkjet printer. In this case, a 3mm date code, which is in fact the standard requirement for food industry. On this type of code, where we're printing 5 characters, you can expect upwards of 350,000 prints per cartridge. Again, giving you a very low running cost to the system. Just checking again with my colleagues on any questions that may be coming up.
Someone's raised their hand to talk, so we're just going to let them
they should be able
enable their mic so they can ask a question.
Sure.
Yeah, they should be able to chat.
I believe we have a live chat coming through.
Jose Muji. Just waiting. I believe they're unmuted.
Okay. Jose, you're live on this morning's live chat. Do you have any questions for us? Hopefully you can hear us.
Yes, hi, good morning. Can this machine do boxes, cartons, flat pack cartons?
Rather than a sleeve?
That's right, yeah.
Of course, yes. So long as the product is a flat item, if the carton's not been formed, then the system will accept it. There are considerations to be made. For example, if you were looking to do cardboard boxes, then we might have to look at the next machine up in the range. And this is down to the size or the thickness of the product.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Do you have any other questions? Just checking with colleagues again. We have a question relative to whether the system will do bags. Predominantly, the RF light is designed for doing cartons and sleeves in their flat form. But when it comes to doing poly bags, it all really depends on the flexibility of the bag. So if the bag is quite a rigid bag or rigid pouch, it may be possible to run them on the RF light. But as always, we recommend samples are sent to us for testing, and we can test them on the various different solutions that we have here, ranging from the RF light, as you see in front of you, all the way up to our top range RF1 systems. So the key there is, if you have an application you'd like us to take a look at, please feel free to send your samples to us, take advantage of our free testing service, and we'll come back to you with the ideal solution to your application. Okay, we have another question here regarding the print capabilities of the system rather than the feed capabilities, and that's whether the unit can be used to print QR codes. Now, we discussed briefly earlier the 2 different types of code that are normally applied to food product. The QR code is becoming more and more common now, and this can be used for certain applications such as marketing data, where the manufacturer of the food product may wish to apply a QR code to the carton or sleeve, and that QR code will contain data relative to maybe an ingredient for that particular product, or an example of suggested recipes. They can also be used for marketing data to direct customers to the relative websites and attract traffic to the manufacturer of the product. Any other questions there for us, Carl? No? Okay. So, as I say, this morning's presentation is predominantly aimed at the lower volume artisan businesses for either slider rig application, offline coding, or automated process such as the RF light. Sorry, we do have another question popping up all the time. In terms of the quantity of product that can be fitted within the stack area here, which is the hopper, it really depends on the thickness of the product. So on something like this, where we have a relatively thin product, you can see there the actual product is very, very well pressed during the manufacturing process of the card or sleeve. We would anticipate around about 250 units to be located within this hopper assembly. Obviously, the thicker the product is, or the more spring there is to the product, you'll get less in the stack. Another thing that will affect this is the actual physical weight of the item that you're wishing to run on the system. Again, a sleeve or carton of this sort of thickness is fairly light and therefore will not present any problems with the drive system on the unit. We do have an automatic cutout on this system, which will prevent any damage to the unit if in the event of a unlikely jam or too much pressure being applied to the top rollers. Regarding power supply, yes, from Aaron, it's a single phase power supply for this particular system. Again, further enhancing the portability of the unit around the factory. 230 volt single phase supply is all that's required. No air to this system at all. Again, using thermal inkjet technology. Question regarding loading the hopper. It's a very relevant one, often asked by many of our customers. The beauty of this system, having the variable speed, if you're running the system slowly during a restack, i.e. the machine can continue running, you switch the machine to the lower speed setting and you can continue to feed the stack, therefore making optimum use of the effectiveness of the system. One other question we do often get regarding this type of system is the flexibility in terms of the size and dimension of the product. Now, we mentioned earlier the overall maximum dimensions. Just want to reiterate how easy the system is to reset a different product. So even taking something like this, which is very different in shape and size to our standard sleeve that we've just shown you, the operation setting this machine is exactly the same. We run the product centrally through the stack, through the finger guide here. We just adjust this to suit the product thickness, ensure we've got grip, and then we simply adjust the hopper plates in to meet the edges of the product. We want to leave about 1 millimeter either side so we're not gripping the product as it's running through. But again, once we've adjusted the system, it should take the product through simply and quickly as shown. Okay, we have a question regarding specific speed settings for the feeder. I showed you earlier, we have the rocker switch here, which enables you to select both low and high speed. If there is a particular meter per minute speed or throughput speed that you wish to achieve, we can program the drive on the system to accommodate this. So in short, the answer to your question is yes, we can set the machine between the two different variable speed settings to accommodate your throughput needs. Recently, we actually carried out an application or installation where this particular system was used to feed product onto a conveyor, which was then being transporting the product further down the line and applying a label to. This system had to run at a very specific speed to ensure product spacing on the conveyor. Question regarding circular sleeves, it's a very good one. Predominantly the system needs to have 2 straight edges. The reason for this is that the hopper assembly itself needs to be set up in such a way that you're gripping the product in a way that ensures that it will feed through the in-feed section. Now, strictly speaking, it could run a circular product, but the problem you'll have is that if the date code box that you wish to hit, obviously with the circular product, we can't guarantee the location of the date box relative to the printer. So there needs to be a datum edge that you're printing to and in line with the code that you wish to print. Any further questions? Okay. This afternoon we'll be running another presentation at 2 o'clock. During that presentation we'll be concentrating on the larger systems that are available in our range, and some of those may of course be of interest to food manufacturers requiring higher volumes or wishing to run various different products. So do feel free to join us at 2 p.m. Where we'll be live once again, and throughout the week again. Tomorrow, of particular interest to food industry may be the outer case printer systems that we use for coding direct to packaging products or packaged products, negate the need for labelling and application of label. Thank you very much for your time, and if you have any questions, do please feel to email us sales@rotechmachines.com or call us direct via the main office number. We're always happy to help, and of course feel free to take advantage of our product sampling service where you can send your products to us and we'll test them and advise you on the most relevant piece of equipment. Oh, just before we finish, I just have one more question. I do apologise. In terms of us providing information on this system, of course, this question relates to business partner not being available for today's seminar. We can, of course, send through PDFs for you, and we will have this presentation available to view at any time at your leisure, and we can send that via a link if you wish. If you want to provide us with your email address and contact details, we'll get in contact with you.